Speech problems in children with or without autism can be affected by their feeding, their drinking, and other oral motor habits. By adjusting some of these habits, you can get better speech development and articulation in many of your children and clients. Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Barbera, autism mom, board certified behavior analyst, online course creator, and best-selling author of The Verbal Behavior Approach. Each week, I provide you with some of my ideas about turning autism around. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do that now. Today, I'm sharing a small excerpt from a podcast episode with speech and language pathologist, Dr. Joanne Gerenser, discussing ways we can help children with speech problems. You can check out the full podcast episode at marybarbera.com/41 or click the card on the screen now. You came to present in Berks County back in like 2000, 2001.
Right.
If I would have done the math earlier, I could have figured out the exact date because I remember Lucas was about 4 years of age and he is now 23.
Wow.
And yeah. And you came to present and I was going to take you out to dinner. So I thought I would bring you to my home and have you do like a quick 15-minute look at Lucas. I remember taking you down the basement. He was running around and the one piece of advice I remember, I probably wouldn't have even remembered you being in my house, but you said like, get rid of the spill-proof Sippy Cup. And,
Right.
and that was really key information. And, because, and explain why you recommend that, because I now really took that
Right.
to heart.
Right.
And, you know, I've done video blogs on getting rid of bottles and pacifiers and spill-proof sippy cups. And because a lot of our kids are, and I have video blogs on picky eating and bonus videos and
Sure.
all kinds of things, because I do think that there's a lot of similarities between eating, drinking, sucking problems, and talking problems.
No, absolutely. I mean, so this is an interesting concept because this is one of the discussions I have with behavior analysts. We as speech pathologists have taken entire courses on speech development, and we don't agree all the time, but it's a very scientific literature we have. And one of the things we learn is that speech is what's called an overlaid function. Our tongue and our velum and those are actually gesticulators. They're designed to eat, right? So that's why you see families when they have a baby, they go from the bottle or liquids to mushy foods to, you don't just give a 2-year-old a piece of steak necessarily, right? And so, but the progression that we go through when we eat is what helps our articulators, so that they turn into articulators, so that we're able to do, there's a reason why certain sounds come in later. We lose teeth. So you want to make sure your S sound is developed before you lose your front teeth. Otherwise, you're going to end up having a lisp. So anyhow, when kids stay on the bottle too long, or the sippy cup, which is in essence just a glorified bottle, they're not developing the right oral motor behaviors that lead to more functional speech. So I think it's really important. It's hard to get, but this is why, by the way, people are now recommending getting rid of the bottle at age 1, right? Because you just want to make sure that you're not behind the 8 ball when you're starting to develop speech.
And also pacifiers are a big thing. And a lot of people don't think they can get rid of the pacifier because of severe problem behaviors. And they basically plug up kids to keep them calm and not screaming. But at the same time, they're plugging up their kid and who is becoming more and more speech delayed. And so I'm like a big proponent. And Lucas took a pacifier, really a lot. But I didn't know then. But now, ever since that little piece of advice 2 decades ago that you gave me about spill-proof sippy cups, that they were no better than a bottle, I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm a big proponent of straw drinking, open cup drinking, and moving kids along, not just for drinking, but also for eating, the mushy foods, some kids will eat corn chips and Cheerios and that sort of thing. I remember interviewing this mom once, and I was trying to get the bottom of it. I had seen this kid eat crunchy foods. So I'm like, okay, how's his eating, and she's, like, well, he'll eat French fries and corn chips and, the white crunchy diet. And I was like, okay, any fruits or vegetables, protein? She's like, this kid was like 6 years of age. And she said, only in the baby food. And she had just gotten done telling me, like, she was, very financially strapped, and she, the kid had tons of problems. And I was like, oh, and I was trying not to be like baby food for a 6-year-old who can chew and swallow, but I was just like, oh, okay. Like, how many jars of baby food? I'm thinking she's like 52 jars a week. And
right, because he's 6.
But nobody's going to ask that question. Is your child eating baby food? But, and I'm not saying, she needed help. She didn't need people blaming her for not, being able to control her kid to feed him real food. But, chewing and swallowing mushy foods, crunchy foods, the E sound with the biting and the, there's just so much involved with the oral motor system that I think behavior analysts are like, well, I don't like this, or that's not evidence-based or whatever. And maybe it is, and maybe.
Right. Well, I mean, I would argue, which I love to do, is you aren't looking at that evidence, right? See, if you don't have a dialogue with each other, I can't read all the behavior analytic literature. If I'm when I was in graduate school, I was reading all the speech language literature. So we can't read each other's extensive literature. We have to depend on each other to give us that information. So there's a tremendous amount of scientific evidence behind things like speech development and super segmental aspects of speech, lexical processing. There's a very, very broad literature on that. That's very scientific. But we have to be able to have conversations so that we can decide what we want to include in our interventions. If we just cut it out, if I don't talk to the behavior analyst, I'm missing some really important information. It's interesting, right? Because, I've been here now going on 38 years. The behavior analysis that I do today doesn't look at all like what we did 38 years ago. We're so much better and so much more advanced. And so you have to stay on top of things, and again, it requires a dialogue.
Yeah, which is just excellent that you have such a wide background and such a history with ABA and speech and language pathology. And I hope that, what you're saying here resonates with people, because you have been leading the way and really trying to bridge this gap and make things better for kids with autism. So that is just, I thank you for your service to our field to help us. I hope you enjoyed this short snippet from the podcast. If you want more content, check out the podcast at marybarbera.com/podcast. Wherever you're watching this, I'd love it if you would leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, share this video with others who may benefit. And for more information, you can attend a free online workshop at marybarbera.com/workshop. And I'll see you right here next week.